I died choking on my own blood, the taste of betrayal as sharp as the knife my brother plunged into my back, figuratively, at first, then literally, in that rain-slicked alley behind the family law firm. The last thing I saw was his face, twisted in that smug, entitled grin he'd worn since we were kids, whispering, "This is for Dad's legacy, Soph. You were never meant to have it." But death isn't the end when you've got unfinished business. I woke up gasping, not in hell, but in the passenger seat of my old Honda Civic, the radio blasting Springsteen as I pulled into the driveway of our crumbling colonial in suburban Philly, the date on the dash screaming November 23rd, 2017, 8 years before the knife, right back to that godforsaken Thanksgiving when it all started unraveling. It was the smell that hit me first, that god-awful mix of overcooked turkey and passive-aggressive perfume my mother always doused herself in before family gatherings. I killed the engine and sat there for a second, heart hammering like I'd just run a marathon, staring at the house that used to feel like home but now loomed like a trapdoor to hell. 8 years. I'd clawed my way back from the grave, or whatever cosmic glitch had spat me out here, and the first thing I needed to do was rewrite the script. No more wide-eyed Sophia, the good daughter who showed up unannounced with pie in hand, only to watch her family implode. This time, I'd be the storm. I grabbed the pumpkin pie from the back seat, store-bought, because who has time for domestic bullshit when you're plotting a resurrection, and slammed the car door harder than necessary. The crunch of gravel under my boots echoed in the crisp autumn air, leaves swirling like confetti from a funeral I'd already attended. As I approached the front porch, the muffled shouts leaked through the walls, Mom's shrill whine about the ungrateful freeloaders, Dad's booming laugh that masked his impotence, and beneath it all, a low, wounded murmur that I knew was Grandma's. My grip tightened on the pie box. This was it, the fork in the road where trust died, and the wolves circled. Pushing open the door without knocking, unannounced, just like last time, I stepped into the foyer, the warmth of the house slapping me like a false embrace. The living room was a battlefield. Dad sprawled in his lazy boy, nursing a Budweiser, his tie loosened like he'd already surrendered to the holiday. Mom fluttered around the kitchen archway, her apron stained with what looked like cranberry regret, barking orders at my sister Lila, who was 19 and already honing her mean girl edge with a passive scroll through her phone. And there, in the corner by the fireplace, was Ethan, my brother, 22 and fresh out of Penn Law, lounging on the couch like he owned the deed to our souls. But it was Grandma who gutted me all over again, perched on the goddamn floor, her arthritic knees tucked under her, back against the wall because her armchair, the one with the faded quilt, had been commandeered by Lila's latest boyfriend, some douchebag finance bro named Chad who didn't even know her middle name. Jesus Christ, I muttered, the pie box creaking in my fists. Head snapped toward me, a tableau of frozen guilt and irritation. Grandma's eyes lit up first, watery blue and brimming with that fierce, unspoken love that had kept me sane through a childhood of parental neglect. She tried to stand, but her hands trembled on the carpet, and something feral snapped in me. This wasn't just family drama. This was the first crack in the facade, the moment they started treating the elders like disposable furniture to make room for their shiny new egos. Sophia? Honey, we weren't expecting. Mom started, her voice pitching up like a siren, but I cut her off, striding across the room with the pie thrust forward like a shield. Clearly, I said, my tone flat as Midwest asphalt. I set the pie on the coffee table with a thud that scattered silverware, then knelt beside Grandma, ignoring the collective inhale from the room. Her hand found mine, papery and warm, and I helped her up, slow and deliberate, feeling the bones that time and neglect had made brittle. You okay, Gram? She nodded, but her lips pressed thin, the kind of thin that hid a lifetime of swallowing shit for the sake of family. Just fine, dear. Come to join the circus. Wouldn't miss it. I guided her to the armchair, shooting Lila a look that could curdle milk. My sister blinked, all wide-eyed innocence, but I saw the flicker, the calculation. Chad shifted uncomfortably, his loafers scuffing the rug.
Chad, right?
Buddy, floors that way. I jerked my thumb toward the spot Grandma had vacated, my smile all teeth. He sputtered, looking to Lila for backup, but she just shrugged, popping her gum. Soft, chill. It's not a big deal. Gram doesn't mind. Doesn't she? I turned to Grandma, who sank into the chair with a sigh that carried the weight of 82 Thanksgivings. You mind, Gram? Her gaze flicked to the room, then back to me, a spark of mischief in her eyes that I'd forgotten she had. Well, now that you mention it. The tension ratcheted up like a spring-loaded trap. Dad cleared his throat, setting his beer down with a clink. Sophia Marie, that's enough. We're all a little on edge today. The market's down, your mother's pie crust flopped. And your son's about to sell the family home out from under us. I interrupted, the words slipping out before I could stop them. 8 years of hindsight had loosened my tongue, and the room went deathly quiet. Ethan's head whipped up, his jaw tightening in that predatory way I'd come to recognize too late in my first life. He was the golden boy, the one Dad had groomed to take over the firm, the one who'd whispered poison in everyone's ear until I was the outsider in my own bloodline. What the hell are you talking about? Ethan leaned forward, elbows on knees, his voice low and laced with that fake concern he wielded like a scalpel. I met his eyes, unflinching. In my old timeline, I'd laughed it off, chalked it up to holiday stress. But I knew now, that very weekend, he'd start the ball rolling, falsified docs, a generous offer from a developer buddy, and poof, the house Grandma had poured her widow's pension into would be bulldozed for condos. I'd fight it, of course, digging too deep into the firm's books, uncovering the embezzlement Ethan had buried under layers of offshore accounts. And when I got too close, the accident in the alley, staged to look like a mugging gone wrong. I'm talking about the email I saw on your laptop last week. I lied smoothly, pulling from half-remembered fragments of that future betrayal. The one from Harlan Properties. Prime location for luxury units. Let's make this family business profitable again. Ring any bells? Mom's hand flew to her chest, a dramatic gasp that would have been Oscar-worthy if it weren't so rehearsed. Ethan? Is this true? He recovered fast, that law school polish shining through. Soph, you're jet-lagged or something. I was researching options for us. Dad's firm is bleeding money. And this place? It's a money pit. Gram's knees can't handle the stairs forever. Grandma's fingers dug into the armrest, her knuckles whitening. My knees are just fine for climbing mountains higher than your ambition, boy. The room erupted then, a cacophony of defenses and deflections. Lila sided with Ethan, naturally, her loyalty bought with shopping sprees and promises of a cut. Dad hemmed and hawed, his beer sweating in his grip. Mom fluttered between them like a moth to a flame, cooing about unity, while her eyes darted to the silverware drawer, as if forks could fix fractured trust. And me? I stood there, the reborn specter in their midst, cataloging every micro-betrayal. The way Ethan's foot tapped impatiently, Lila's eye roll at Grandma's jab, Dad's averted gaze that screamed complicity. By the time we sat down to dinner, me shoving Chad to the kids' table with a plate of cold stuffing, the air was thick as gravy. I watched them pick at the food, forks scraping china like accusations. Grandma caught my eye across the table, her expression a mix of gratitude and wariness, as if she sensed the shift in me, the way my politeness had hardened into something sharper. Pass the yams, Sophia, she said softly, but her tone carried subtext. What's your play, girl? I slid the dish over, my mind racing ahead. Revenge wasn't a sprint, it was a marathon of calculated cuts. Step 1, isolate Ethan. I'd start with the firm's books, hack in tonight if I had to, using the backdoor password I discovered too late last time. Step 2, turn Lila. She was the weak link, all bluster and no backbone. Step 3, expose Dad's dirty secret, the one that made him Ethan's puppet, the affair with his paralegal that Ethan had leveraged for years. As the argument simmered down to sullen silence, broken only by Chad's awkward attempts at small talk. So, who's got fantasy football picks? I felt the first thrill of this second chance ripple through me. They thought I was the same soft-hearted sister, the one who'd forgive and forget. But I wasn't. I'd come home unannounced, all right, to unmask the monsters wearing family faces. And by Christmas, heads would roll. Dinner dragged on like a bad deposition, the kind where everyone knows the truth, but no one wants to swear to it. I poked at my turkey, the dry meat sticking in my throat like unspoken grudges, while Ethan's foot bounced under the table, a tell I'd filed away in my mental dossier. He was nervous, which meant my bluff about the email had landed harder than I'd hoped.
Good.
Let him squirm. In my first go-round, I'd been too busy playing peacemaker to notice how his anxiety fueled his aggression, how it led to that rainy night when he'd cornered me after hours, his confession, turning into a frenzy of rage, and a letter opener from the desk drawer. Earth to soft, Lila snapped, waving a hand in front of my face. Her nails were acrylic talons, painted blood red, a color that suited her more than she knew. You gonna eat or just stare into space like a weirdo? I blinked slowly, channeling that cool detachment I'd learned from too many therapy sessions post-divorce in my old life. Just savoring the family vibe, sis.
It's
nostalgic. She snorted, turning back to Chad, who was regaling Dad with tales of Wall Street conquests that sounded like reheated CNBC scripts. Mom, ever the referee, chimed in with, "Sophia, tell us about that new job in the city." Marketing, right? Sounds glamorous. Glamorous. If only she knew how unglamorous it got. Nights blurring into codeine-fueled hazes after the firm folded, my name dragged through tabloids as the disgraced Harlow daughter. But that was future dust. Here, I was still the up-and-coming account exec, fresh off a promotion, the one they all envied in whispers. Yeah, it's a grind, I said casually, spearing a green bean. Lots of late nights, digging through financials. You know, spotting discrepancies before they sink the whole ship. Ethan's fork paused midair, green peas dangling like nooses. Financials, huh? Fancy. Bet you could teach me a thing or two at the firm. The double entendre hung there, bait I wasn't biting yet. Maybe. Or maybe I'll just audit the family ledger while I'm at it. Laughter rippled awkwardly, but Grandma's eyes narrowed, appraising me like I was a puzzle she'd half solved. After the plates were cleared, me insisting on helping, because control started in the kitchen, I cornered Grandma by the sink, the suds bubbling like suppressed fury. You holding up? I murmured, drawing a crystal goblet that had been Mom's wedding gift, now chipped from years of slammed cabinets. She glanced over her shoulder, ensuring the others were out of earshot in the living room, where Dad's football game droned on like white noise for denial. Better now that you're here, but don't think I didn't see that fire in your eyes, child. What's got you riled? Not just the chair. I hesitated, the weight of 8 years pressing down. How do you tell your anchor that you've seen the iceberg and the captain's in on it? Just tired of watching everyone step on you to reach higher ground. Ethan's got plans for this place, Graham. Big ones. Her hands stilled in the water, suds clinging to her knuckles like frost. Plans I've heard whispers of. Your father's in debt up to his eyeballs, gambling mostly. Poker nights with those cronies at the club. Ethan's playing savior. But saviors don't sell their grandmother's homes without a cut. Bingo. The first thread pulled. In my old life, I'd uncovered Dad's habit too late, after Ethan had used it as leverage to install himself as the firm's de facto boss. And you? What's your stake in this mess? Grandma dried her hands on her apron, her gaze drifting to a faded photo on the fridge, her and Grandpa on their honeymoon in the Poconos, smiles unscarred by time. This house is all I've got left of him. And you kids. But if it's war Ethan wants. She trailed off, a rare vulnerability cracking her voice. It's not just war, I said, lowering my voice to a conspiratorial hush. It's annihilation. For all of us, if we let him. I placed a hand on her shoulder, feeling the fragility beneath her strength. But we're not letting him. Not this time. She searched my face, and for a heartbeat, I swear she saw the ghost in me. The Sophia who'd failed her, who'd died fighting shadows. Then what's the plan, General? Step 1 tonight. I snoop Ethan's laptop while everyone's passed out on pie and regret. I grinned, the kind that didn't reach my eyes. Step 2. We build an alliance. You, me, maybe even Lila, if she's not too far gone. Grandma chuckled, a dry rustle like autumn leaves. Lila's got your mother's vanity and your father's blind spots, but there's steel under that gloss. Careful, though, Ethan's cleverer than he looks. Snakes always are. We rejoined the fray as the game hit halftime, the living room a haze of cigar smoke Dad wasn't supposed to indulge in anymore. Ethan was holding court, spinning yarns about his latest case, a corporate takeover that saved jobs, he claimed, omitting how it had gutted pensions. Chad hung on every word, Lila simpering beside him, but I caught the flicker in her eyes when Ethan mentioned liquidating assets. Jealousy? Or calculation? Either way, exploitable. As the night wore on, wine flowed and tongues loosened. Mom cornered me in the hallway, her breath sour with Merlot. Sophia, be gentle with your brother. He's under so much pressure. The firm's his birthright. Birthright? I echoed, the word tasting like ash. What about mine, Mom? Or Graham's? She waved it off, eyes glassy. Oh, honey, you're the independent one. You'll land on your feet. Like I had after the mugging? The thought coiled in my gut, hot and vicious. I excused myself to the guest room upstairs, claiming a headache, but really to raid the office Ethan had commandeered as his study. The door creaked open, revealing his domain. Law tomes stacked like fortifications, a MacBook glowing faintly on the desk. Password? His college frat motto, Brothers for Life. Cracked it in seconds, muscle memory from a future I'd buried. Files unfolded like a house of cards. Emails with Harlan. Projections showing the house flipped for 1.2 mil, with consulting fees siphoned to an account in the Caymans. And there, buried in a subfolder labeled Legacy, spreadsheets detailing Dad's debts, leveraged against a firm, with Ethan's loans at exorbitant interest. The betrayal wasn't just property, it was a Ponzi scheme wrapped in filial piety. My fingers flew over the keys, downloading what I could to a thumb drive I'd swiped from my purse, old habits from corporate espionage gigs I'd never taken in this timeline. But as I ejected the drive, footsteps thudded on the stairs. Heart slamming, I snapped the laptop shut and dove behind the desk just as the door swung open. Soph? That you? Ethan's voice, casual but edged. I held my breath, the carpet muffling my pulse. He rummaged for a moment, keys probably, then muttered a curse and left, door clicking shut. Close call. Too close. Slipping back downstairs, I found Grandma in the kitchen, nursing tea by the window. Got what you need? She asked without turning. More than enough to start the fire. I slid the drive into my pocket, the metal cool against my thigh. Tomorrow we talk strategy. But tonight, act normal. Let him think he's won. She nodded, her reflection in the glass a warrior's mask. As I headed to bed, the house settling around me like a coffin I'd clawed out of, I allowed myself a moment of grim satisfaction. The drama had only just begun, the unannounced return, the floor-sitting humiliation, the whispers of sale. But this Thanksgiving, the turkey wasn't the only thing getting carved. Morning broke gray and unforgiving, the kind of Pennsylvania November light that seeped through curtains like regret. I woke to the clatter of pans downstairs, Mom's ritualistic assault on breakfast as penance for holiday overindulgences. My body ached from the awkward couch in the guest room, perks of being the uninvited guest in your own resurrection, but the thumb drive in my jeans pocket was a talisman, grounding me in purpose. 8 years ago, I'd slept through the subtle shifts, Ethan's early departure for work, Lila's sudden interest in real estate apps, Dad's hangdog shuffle to the garage for a secret smoke. This time, I'd be the accelerator, not the brake. Slipping into the bathroom, I splashed water on my face, studying the mirror like an adversary. The woman staring back was 28, lines faint around her eyes from stress I hadn't earned yet, hair a tousled brown wave that screamed, relatable millennial. But the eyes? They burned with foreknowledge, a predator's glint. Play it cool, Soph, I whispered, practicing the smile that disarmed. Revenge is a slow burn. Downstairs, the kitchen was a war zone of half-eaten Danish and coffee sludge. Grandma sat at the island, flipping through a dog-eared Danielle Steele novel, her glasses perched like binoculars on a sniper. She glanced up, a subtle nod. "We're good." Ethan was at the table, laptop open, typing furiously. Damage control, no doubt, after my jab last night. Lila and Chad were MIA, probably tangled in the basement guest room, and Dad was out back raking leaves with the vigor of a man avoiding mirrors. "Morning, sunshine," Ethan said without looking up, his tone brotherly but laced with probe. "Sleep off that conspiracy theory?" I poured coffee, black as my mood, and slid onto a stool beside Grandma. "Like a baby. You?"
Fine.
"Just tying up loose ends." His eyes flicked to me, assessing. "Hey, about the house. Let's not make it weird, okay? It's hypothetical." Hypothetical my ass. The drive burned a hole in my pocket.
Sure.
Hypotheticals are my favorite. Like, what if someone audited your loose ends and found Cayman Islands detours? He chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You always did have an imagination. Sophomore stick to ads." Grandma cleared her throat, closing her book with a snap. "Imagination's what built this country, Ethan. And tore down, too. Pass the cream, dear." She bumped my elbow, her way of saying steady. Mom bustled and then, all forced cheer in her reindeer sweater. "Everyone up. Lila's got big news. Chad proposed last night." She beamed, clutching a dish towel like a victory flag. The room tilted. Proposed? In my timeline, that engagement had been a sham, Chad's family money propping up Lila's lifestyle while Ethan funneled kickbacks through their wedding fund. But here, fresh leverage. Ethan froze mid-sip, then plastered on a grin.
Nos cheat?
"Congrats, you too." Lila swept in moments later, ring flashing like a warning light, Chad trailing with bedhead and a sheepish smile. Hugs were exchanged, toasts proposed, but I caught the undercurrent. Ethan's jaw tick, Mom's overbright eyes masking envy for the daughter who'd locked it down. Grandma just raised her mug, murmuring, "May it bring you more joy than it costs." Breakfast devolved into bridal chatter, venues, dresses, the works, while I bided my time, excusing myself to the home office under pretense of a work call. Laptop fired up, I plugged in the drive, cross-referencing Ethan's files with public records I'd mentally mapped for my future hacks. There it was, Dad's poker debts, $150K deep, with Ethan's bailouts tied to firm equity. And the kicker, a forged power of attorney, dated next week, giving Ethan control over Grandma's assets. Bastard had moved fast last time. This time, I'd be faster. By noon, the house emptied fractionally. Dad to the club for brunch, code for cards, Mom dragging Lila and Chad to outlet malls for inspiration. Ethan announced a firm meeting, urgent, naturally kissing Mom goodbye with that golden boy charm. "Back by dinner, promise." "Drive safe," I called sweetly from the doorway, waving as his Audi purred down the drive. The second he was gone, I turned to Grandma. "Your room."
Now.
Upstairs, amid her quilted sanctuary smelling of lavender sachets, we huddled like conspirators. I spilled it all, not the death, not yet. That ghost story could wait, but the docs, the debts, the sale. Her face hardened with each revelation, lines deepening like fault lines. "That boy. Your father raised him on shortcuts, thinking they'd pave the road to heaven. But they're just potholes to hell." "We stop it here," I said, pulling up our encrypted email draft on my phone. "I send this to the firm's partners, anonymously for now. Flags the discrepancies. Buys us time." She paced, arthritic gait belying her fire. "Time for what? Confrontation? Your mother's no fighter and Lila's RN." I leaned forward, elbows on knees. "That ring? It's a chain. Chad's folks are old money, but shady, insider trading whispers for my research. If Ethan's pulling her in, we flip her first. Make her see the con." Grandma stopped, eyes sharp. "And if she doesn't flip? Blood's thicker, even when it's poisoned." Then we cut it out. The words hung heavy, controversial even in my own head. Family above all. That was the American dream we'd been sold, the myth that kept us chained. But I'd died for it once, no more. Afternoon bled into scheming. Calls to a PI contact from my job, really, a future ally I'd cultivated post-betrayal. Scans of the power of attorney for forgery tells. Grandma dug out old ledgers from Grandpa's era, cross-checking against Ethan's spreadsheets. Discrepancies galore, enough to sink a yacht. By dusk, as cars crunched back into the drive, we had a dossier thicker than a Tolstoy, sealed in a manila envelope under her mattress. Dinner was a minefield. Lila gushed about honeymoons in Napa, Chad nodding like a bobblehead, while Ethan dominated with tales of closing deals. I played along, laughing at the right beats, but my eyes tracked him like a hawk. When he excused himself for a call, I followed at a distance, slipping into the hall shadows. His voice low and urgent. Yeah, push the offer to 1.1. The old lady's frail. We can spin it as mercy. Harlow's signature's good as gold.
Dad.
Complicit to the core. Rage boiled, but I reined it, snapping a voice memo on my phone. Evidence piled like snowdrifts. That night, as the house snored under turkey stupor, I lay awake, plotting the controversial pivot. Leak to the press? Frame Ethan with his own forgeries? No, too messy, too American Gothic. The twist would come in the personal. Expose Dad's affair first, shatter the pedestal, then watch Ethan crumble without a scaffold. But as sleep tugged, a creak on the stairs jolted me upright. Footsteps, soft but deliberate. Ethan's door was ajar, mine the target. Heart thundering, I gripped the bedside lamp like a club. The knob turned slowly, and there he stood, silhouette backlit by hallway moon, eyes gleaming with something darker than brotherly concern. Soft, he whispered, stepping in, door clicking shut behind him. We need to talk. The air in the room thickened, charged like the moments before a nor'easter rolls in off the Delaware. Ethan closed the distance in 3 measured steps, his pajamas rumpled, but his posture all boardroom predator, shoulders squared, that half-smile I'd once mistaken for charm now curdling my blood. I kept the lamp loose in my grip, hidden behind my thigh, the weight a reminder. This wasn't the boy who'd shared comic books under the covers. This was the man who'd end me in an alley for a payout.
Talk.
I echoed, swinging my legs off the bed, casual as if insomnia were our midnight ritual. At 2 a.m.? Must be juicy. He perched on the edge of the mattress, too close, his knee brushing mine, a violation disguised as familiarity. Last night's bullshit. The house, the email, you're out of line. Sophomore Dad's stressed enough without you stirring pots. Stressed? I tilted my head, letting disbelief color my voice. Or guilty, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're the one with the real estate wet dream, big bro. His smile faltered, just a twitch, but I clocked it. You're imagining things. Again. Remember that phase in college? Convinced the RA was spying for the dean. Gaslight, classic Ethan. In my old life, it had worked, doubting myself until the doubts became doctrine. Not tonight. Yeah, well, imaginations don't forge POAs or launder debts through fake charities. But hey, if I'm wrong, prove it. Show me the books. He leaned back, exhaling like I'd punched him.
Jesus, Soph.
This is family. You really think I'd screw us over? The irony burned, but I played it cool, shrugging. Family's why I'm asking. Graham's not getting younger, and if this place goes poof, where's she sleep? The floor again. Mentioning the chair landed like a slap. His eyes narrowed, calculating escape routes. Look, it's complicated. Dad's in a hole, bad investments, okay?
The sale's a lifeline.
We'll set her up somewhere nice. Assisted living, the works. Lifeline for who? You get a fat commission, Dad dodges collectors, and we get what? Condo co-op invites. I stood, forcing him to crane his neck, reclaiming the power dynamic. The lamp stayed ready, a blunt instrument in waiting. Ethan rose too, slower, his height advantage a bluff I wasn't buying. You're twisting it. Always the martyr, sophomore. But you left, Chased your city dreams while I stayed. Cleaned up the mess. Left? I'd begged for a junior partner spot at the firm, only for him to block it with whispers of not ready. The betrayal's roots ran deep, tangled in sibling rivalry Dad had fertilized with favoritism. Mess you helped make, counselor. Or did you forget the poker vig you slapped on his loans? Silence crashed down, heavier than the quilt at my feet. His face drained of color, Adam's apple bobbing. How? Doesn't matter. I stepped closer, voice ablade. What matters is this. Pull the sale or I go public. Partners, press, the whole Philly legal circus. Imagine the headlines. Harlow heirs heist. Family fortune fiddled. Poetic, right? He recovered with a bark of laughter, but it rang hollow. You wouldn't. Blood's thicker. Blood washes off knives, Ethan. The words slipped out, laced with prophetic chill, and his eyes widened fractionally. Had he sensed the grave dirt on my tongue? Try me. For a heartbeat, the room balanced on a knife's edge. Then he deflated, shoulders slumping in feigned defeat.
Fine. I'll
look into it.
pause the deal.
But you breathe a word, and we're all underwater. Deal? I nodded, the lie tasting sweet.
Deal.
He lingered a second too long, gaze probing like he could x-ray my resolve, then backed out, murmuring goodnights that felt like threats. The door clicked, and I sagged against it, pulse jackhammering. Close, too close again. But I'd planted the seed, watched doubt sprout in his eyes. Revenge wasn't just exposure. It was erosion, wearing him down till he crumbled from within. Dawn crept in with the smell of bacon, Mom's olive branch to the uneasy truce. I joined the fray late, feigning a solid sleep, but Grandma's arched brow over her crossword said she knew better. Rough night, she murmured as I poured juice. Productive. I slid her a note under the table. He's scared. Next move, Lila. The day unfolded in domestic drag. Black Friday prep, though no one shopped. We were Harlewoods, our sales internal wars. Dad returned from the club reeking of scotch and loss, avoiding my eyes like I'd caught him mid-hand. Lila and Chad played lovebirds, but I caught her stealing glances at Ethan's laptop when he stepped out for a smoke. Curiosity or complicity? Opportunity knocked mid-morning, when Lila cornered me in the laundry room, folding Chad's boxers with mechanical precision. Soph, be real. What's your damage with Ethan? You're, like, on a rampage. I leaned against the dryer, arms crossed. Damage? Try self-preservation. He's selling the house out from under Graham for profit. She scoffed, but her hands stilled. That's not. He said it's for Dad's debts. To help. Help himself, you mean? Ever wonder why Chad's perfect family trusts Ethan with their investments?
Insider tips, Lil.
The kind that land you an orange. Her face paled under the makeup, the ring on her finger suddenly loose. You're lying. Am I? I pulled my phone, cueing the voice memo from last night. Ethan's came in whisper, edited clean. Her eyes widened as it played, the betrayal blooming like ink in water.
He's using you, too.
Wedding fund? It'll vanish faster than your trust fund if the feds knock. Lila crumpled the towel in her fist, tears welling but not falling. Pride, that Harlow steel. Why tell me? You hate me. Hate. I softened, just enough. I pity you. We were close once, before he turned you into his echo. Help me stop him, and maybe we fix that. She searched my face, the sisterly bond a frayed thread. What do I do?
Charme offensive.
Get Chad to poke around Ethan's deals, casual, like due diligence for your future nest egg. Record it if you can. Hesitation, then a nod, brittle as autumn ice.
For Graham. And me.
Alliance forged, fragile but real. By lunch, she'd worked her magic. Chad, oblivious puppy, cornered Ethan in the garage over portfolio advice, phone slyly propped on a toolbox. I monitored from the kitchen window, Grandma beside me, her silence a steady hum. The fallout hit at dinner. Chad, buzzed on curiosity and beer, blurting, "Hey, Ethan, that Harlan deal sounds solid, but what's the equity split? Lila and I are thinking long-term. Ethan's fork clattered, mask slipping. What's split? It's straightforward. Straightforward how? Chad pressed, egged by Lila's subtle toe under the table. Like fees to family or? The table went still, Mom's eyes darting like minnows.
Dad choked on his wine.
Ethan shot Lila a venomous glance, then recovered with lawyer speak. Consulting, standard. Nothing to sweat. But the seed was in fertile soil. Whispers started. Mom to Dad later. Voices carrying up the stairs. If it's shady. Lila texted me from the bathroom. He's pissed. Got audio. Him yelling at Chad about, mind your business. Night 2, I escalated. With Ethan's pause in play, I hit send on the anonymous tip to the firm's ethics board. Subtle. Just enough to trigger an internal review. Sleep came fitful, dreams of alleys and blood, but morning brought payoff. Ethan's phone buzzing nonstop, his face ashen over eggs. Everything okay? I asked innocently, buttering toast.
Fine.
Work stuff. But his eyes screamed cornered animal. Grandma caught it too, her foot nudging mine press. The controversial turn came post-brunch, when Dad pulled me aside in the den, his hands trembling around a tumbler. Sophia, what's this I hear about audits? Ethan's fit to be tied. I met his gaze. The father, who'd chosen convenience over cubs. Audits save families, Dad. Or destroy them. Your call. He deflated, confessions spilling like cheap scotch. The affair, the debts, Ethan's help that hooked him deeper. I thought I was protecting you all. By selling us out? The words cut, but necessary, controversial mercy, forcing his hand. Fix it. Tell the partners yourself, or I will. Tears tracked his cheeks, a broken king. For you, kiddo. For Graham. By evening, the house crackled with unspoken fractures. Lila confronted Ethan in the foyer, voice rising. If you're screwing Chad's folks, you're screwing us. He gaslit, but she held, my little echo remixed. As night fell, Ethan stormed out, tires squealing toward the city. I watched from the porch, Grandma's hand on my shoulder. Think it'll stick? It'll break him, I said, the weight of foresight heavy. But breaking's just the start. What I didn't count on. The twist in the dark. My phone buzzing with an unknown number, a text. You think you know me, Soph? Check your email. Heart sinking, I opened it. Attachments, photos from last night, me at his laptop. Timestamps damning. He'd known. The snake had struck first. The email burned on my screen like a Molotov through a window pane, those grainy shots of me hunched over Ethan's MacBook, timestamped 1:47 a.m., angle from the hallway shadows. He'd set a trap, the bastard, a cheapo nanny cam tucked in the smoke detector, feeding to his phone. My breath hitched, fingers hovering over delete, but no, this was escalation, his desperate lunge at checkmate. I forwarded it to my secure Dropbox, then deleted the trail, mind spinning contingencies.
Confront?
No, that fed his narrative. Unstable sister hacking family secrets.
Run?
Tempting, but flight screamed guilt. No, I'd turn his poison back on him. Alchemize it into accelerant. Downstairs, the house slumbered under a false peace, the Black Friday sales droning on the TV like a dirge for normalcy. Grandma's light still glowed under her door. I knocked soft, slipping in with the envelope of evidence, clutched like a grenade. She sat up in bed, quilt pooled around her waist, her reading glasses magnifying the worry in her eyes. Trouble. Photographic evidence of my being. I handed her the phone, watching her scroll, her lips thinning to a razor line. He's got me dead to rights, if he spins it right. She handed it back, unflinching. Spinning's his specialty. But you've got the real dirt. Leverage it. Leverage how? Blackmail the blackmailer. I paced her threadbare rug, the floorboards creaking like confessions. It's too hot, Graham. One leak, and I'm the villain. Paranoid prodigal pilfer's brother's PC. She patted the bed, Voice steady as Pennsylvania bedrock.
Seat.
Listen, your grandpa faced down bootleggers in the Depression, men who'd kill for a creative hooch. He didn't swing first, he swung smarter. Offer a trade, your silence for his pullback. But lace it with teeth, CC the PI on everything. The plan crystallized, ruthless in its simplicity. Controversial, too, stooping to his level, bargaining in shadows like the family we were unraveling. But survival demanded it. Purity was a luxury for the living. And if he bites back harder? Her eyes gleamed, a grandmother's guile. Then we burn it all. House, firm, secrets. Sometimes phoenixes need ashes. I drafted the reply in her rocker, words honed sharp. Nice try, but pixels don't pay debts. Pull the deal, shred the POA, or these came in spreadsheets hit the DA's inbox. Your move. And lose the spy cam. Creepy doesn't suit you. Sent blind. No read receipt. Then I crashed, sleep a shallow ditch haunted by alley rain. Morning hit like a gavel. Ethan at the breakfast table, eyes bloodshot, coffee untouched. Lila avoided him, picking at fruit salad with Chad in tow, their engagement glow dimmed to fluorescent flicker. Mom chattered obliviously about pie sales at church, Dad's hangdog shuffle to the garage a silent vote of no confidence. I slid into my seat, meeting Ethan's stare head-on, my smile a velvet glove over brass knuckles. Rough night? I asked, pouring cereal with exaggerated calm. He leaned in, voice a hiss under the clink of spoons.
You deleted them. Goo.
But backups exist. Sophomore everywhere. Backups for what? My impeccable timing? I crunched a bite, the sweetness cloying. Or your offshore oopsies? Grandma coughed delicately, inserting herself with a plate of toast. Pass the jam, boy. And mind your volume. Walls have ears, and so do I. He recoiled, the matriarch's rebuke landing like buckshot. Lila smirked into her yogurt, a subtle nod my way. Team thawing. The meal dragged, tension coiling tighter than a hung jury, until Ethan's phone chirped, a text from his partner. No doubt, the ethics probe rippling outward. He excused himself abruptly, storming to the den. I followed at a lag, pausing in the hall to eavesdrop. Yeah, anonymous tip, but it's bullshit. Probably a disgruntled client. I'll handle it. A pause, his voice dropping. No, the sister's clean. Off the rails, maybe, but clean.
Clean.
The word echoed, a backhanded exoneration that freed me to maneuver. Slipping into the powder room, I called the PI, ex-cop, Philly grit named Marco, who'd pulled my bacon in the future timeline after the mugging. Harlow here. Need eyes on my brother, stat. Audi plates heading downtown. And run a deep dive on Harlan properties, shells, fronts, the works. Copy, boss lady. You sound intense. Everything copacetic. Peachy. Just family reunion jitters. We rang off, and I emerged to find Lila waiting, arms crossed, ring glinting like fool's gold. Overheard him on the phone defending you? Weird. Her brow furrowed, the first crack in her Ethan worship. What's the endgame, Soph? You gonna tank the firm?
Us.
I pulled her into the linen closet, the scent of mothballs a conspiratorial cocoon. Endgame survival. For Graham, for you. Hell, even Dad, if he mans up. Ethan's a cancer. Cut him out or we all metastasize. She bit her lip, the vulnerability raw. Chad's digging, found emails linking Ethan to some sketchy trades. But if I blow this up, weddings off, Mom freaks. Weddings come and go, jail times forever. Harsh but true, the controversial calculus of tough love. Help me, and I'll back your play. New start, clean slate. A beat, then her nod. Fierce. For the ring? Screw it. For family?
In.
The alliance solidified over lunch. Chad unwittingly conscripted as mule, forwarding research to my burner email, oblivious to the treason. By afternoon, Marco's prelim hit. Harlan was a front for Russian oligarch wash money, Ethan's cut funneled through the firm. Jackpot, Treasonous, borderline treason, the kind of dirt that stuck like tar. Ethan returned as dusk fell, face a thundercloud, cornering me on the back porch where smoke curled from Dad's illicit cigar. "Truce," he said, extending a hand, his grip clammy when I took it. Deals paused. POA's toast. Happy. I searched his eyes, seeing the lie in the too steady gaze. Ecstatic. But if I smell bullshit? You won't. He released, stepping back, the porch light casting his shadow long and jagged. We're Harlewoods. We stick. Stick like knives, I thought, but nodded. Inside, the family tableau mocked us. Mom setting the table for round 2 of leftovers, Lila and Chad canoodling on the couch, Grandma presiding like a dowager queen. Dinner was a farce of normalcy, stories of Thanksgivings past, laughter forced as formaldehyde. But under it, currents swirled. Dad's furtive glances at his phone, Lila's foot tapping Morse code encouragement my way. Post-meal, the controversial decision loomed. With truce teetering, I slipped upstairs to Ethan's study, planting a bug, tiny, from Marco's kit, adhesive as sin. Risky, felonious even, but evidence demanded audacity. As I pressed it under the desk, his footsteps echoed. Back early? Panic surged, but I dove into the closet, heart a war drum. The door opened, light slashing the dark. Ethan rummaged drawers, muttering curses, then paused. Soph? I know you're here.
Busted.
I emerged slow, feigning confusion. Looking for aspirin. Migraine's a bitch. His laugh was bark without bite. Liar. But fine, truce holds. He tossed a bottle my way, eyes never leaving mine. Just remember, I could end you with one call. Those pics? To the cops, you're the hacker. And you're the money launderer. Stalemate, the air electric with mutual destruction. He left, and I exhaled bug secure. But as I retreated to my room, another text pinged. Graham's will. Read it. You might not like the air. Unknown, but his style. Will? The twist gutted me. Grandma's estate. The house's true anchor. Willed to. Who? Racing to her room, I found her awake, ledger open. Ethan sent you snooping?
Worse.
Hinting at the will. I sank beside her, dread coiling. Is it him? She sighed. Heavy as history. Your grandpa left it to me, equal shares for you kids. But last year, I changed it.
To you, Sophia.
For standing up when others knelt.
Me?
The revelation hit like absolution, but laced with peril. Ethan's rage would be biblical if he knew. Why not tell us?
Fear.
Of this. She gestured the house, the fractures.
But now?
Use it. Bait him. The plan evolved. Leak the will tweak. Watch him snap. Controversial. Pitting heirs against blood. But fitting. A mirror to his greed. That night, sleep evaded. The bug's feed crackling in my earbud. Ethan on the phone. Voice venomous. The will's bullshit. Grandma's senile. Forge a new one, or we're sunk. Accomplice laughter, then. Sisters next. Make it look like she ran embezzlement frame-up. My blood iced. Frame-up. Not alley this time, but ruin. The revenge arc bent toward climax, the noose tightening on us both. The bug's whisper clawed through the night like barbed wire. Ethan's plot unfurling in tinny betrayal. Frame me for embezzlement. Vanish the evidence trail. Paint me as the flighty thief who'd bolted with the family silver. Metaphorical, but cutting deep enough to discredit any counteraccusation. In my old timeline, it had nearly worked post-mugging, whispers turning to shouts in court, my name synonymous with scandal until the grave silenced me. This time, I'd choke him with his own rope. Dawn broke brittle, frost etching the windows like accusations. I rose early, the house a mausoleum of snores and secrets, and cornered Grandma in the kitchen over percolating coffee, strong, black, no sugar for the bitter truths ahead. He's planning a frame. Embezzlement, me as the fall guy. Her mug paused midair, steam curling like ghosts. The snake sheds skin but keeps the venom. What's your counter, girl? I laid it out, voice low. Leak the will to the family group chat. Forged or not, it'd ignite his fuse. Then, with Marco's dirt on Harlan, tip the feds anonymously. Let the big fish swallow the minnow. Controversial as hell. Dragging innocents like Dad through federal scrutiny, Lila's wedding into witness stands, but surgical, excising the rot without nuking the root. Grandma nodded slow, her nod a benediction.
Do it.
But spare your mother if you can. She's blind, not blindfolded.
Mom.
The wild card, her denial of fortress I'd have to breach gently. As the house stirred, I drafted the leak, a scanned copy of the will addendum, me as primary heir, discovered in Grandpa's old desk. Sent to the family thread with the innocuous caption, "Found this cleaning, Gram. Thoughts?" Plausible deniability, my fingerprints smudged. The explosion was swift. Lila's string of shocked emojis, Chad's WTF, Mom's voice message shrill as a tea kettle, "Sophia, explain yourself." Dad's silence deafening. Ethan's reply? A single word. Fake. But the damage bloomed, questions piling like indictments. He burst into the kitchen mid-melted butter on toast, face a stormfront. What the fuck's off? Spreading lies now. I buttered calmly, meeting his fury with ice. Lies? It's Gram's signature. Ask her. Grandma entered then, arms laden with eggs, her presence a shield. It's real, Ethan. Changed it last spring, after your consulting chats started feeling like sales pitches. The color drained from him, leaving him sallow as bad veal.
You.
Revoked my share? For her? He jabbed a finger my way, voice cracking on the edge of hysteria. After everything I've done? The debts I covered. Covered. Dad lumbered in, drawn by the volume, his face crumpling as he pieced it. You mean the vig you slapped on, son? Like a loan shark in loafers? Ethan whirled, the family circle tightening like a noose. Dad, you begged. I begged for help, not a yoke. Dad's roar shook the cabinets, a dam breaking after decades of deference. Mom hovered in the doorway, tears streaking her mascara, Lila and Chad peering from the hall like witnesses to a wreck. The confrontation spiraled, accusations flying like stuffing at a food fight, Ethan defending with legalese, me silent sentinel, letting the will do the work. Lila turned first, voice tentative but stealing. If it's true, Ethan, the trades, the house, you're toxic. Toxic. He laughed, manic. You're all leeches. I saved us. Dad's gambling, Mom's pills, your shopping sprees, Soft's delusions. This. He snatched the phone, hurling it against the wall, screen spiderwebbing. This ends now. He lunged for me then, hands clawing for the imaginary evidence I held, but Dad intercepted, grappling his golden boy in a bear hug gone wrong. Enough. Call it off, Ethan, the deal, the threats. Or God help me. The scuffle spilled into the living room, furniture toppling like dominoes of decorum. Grandma shouted for calm, Mom wailed, Chad dialed 911 in panic. Family disturbance, the ultimate American holiday cliché. I backed against the wall, the chaos a vortex, but my mind raced ahead. The bug still live, capturing every damning syllable. Marco's Fed tip cued, time-stamped for release. Cops arrived in 10, cruisers flashing blue-red horror against the colonial siding, neighbors peeking through blinds like vultures. Ethan, cuffed loosely for disorderly pending statements, spat venom my way as they let him out. This isn't over, sophomore. You'll rot for this.
Ot.
I whispered, close enough for only him. I already did. Your turn. The house emptied to statements, me spinning a tale of escalating argument over inheritance. Evidence forthcoming. Lila backed me, tear-streaked but resolute. Dad confessed fragments, his shame a levee breached. Mom collapsed into hysterics, sedated by a paramedic's gentle hand.
Grandma?
She held court on the porch, regaling the officers with tales of boys' temper since Little League, her wit disarming their skepticism. By midnight, the cruisers rolled out, Ethan released on his own recognizance, but under a cloud, ethics board circling, Feds pinged via Marco's channels. The family splintered. Lila and Chad to a hotel, space needed. Dad to a motel, promising AA tomorrow. Mom to pills and denial. Just me and Grandma. The floor sitters turned survivors, nursing Coco by the fire. You did it, she said, her hand frail but firm on mine. Broke the cycle. Not yet. I stared into the flames, the will's weight settling. Twists coming. He won't go quiet. She squeezed, prophetic. Then neither will you. The next days blurred into siege. Ethan's firm suspending him pending investigation. Headlines in the Inquirer. Local legal scion in family feud over fortune. Lila filed for annulment counseling. Chad's family pulling strings to distance. Dad entered rehab, a phoenix of sorts, his calls sober and contrite. Mom drifted, but therapy loomed, my gentle nudge, controversial in its insistence. But Ethan? He ghosted, radio silence save anonymous threats, slashed tires on my Civic, a brick through the kitchen window, etch thief. Marco tailed him to a dive bar in South Philly, meetings with shifty suits, Harlan's ghosts, desperate damage control. The climax brewed, tension a bowstring pulled taut. It snapped on the following Tuesday, me at the firm. Bold move, auditing the books in person, badges flashed from a consultant gig-eyed fast-tracked. Files open, discrepancies glaring, when the elevator dinged. Ethan, disheveled, eyes wild. You bitch, he snarled, door hissing shut behind him. Ruined everything. Self-inflicted, I stood, back to the window, city sprawl mocking his fall. The will, the money, it was never yours to hoard. He advanced, hands flexing, not knife, but intent clear. Grandpa promised me the firm.
Dad too. You?
The afterthought. The delusion cracked something in me, the reborn fury surging. Afterthought? I died for your legacy. The slip, too raw, too true, froze him.
Died.
Echoed, confusion flickering. No time for graveside chats. He lunged, papers scattering like confetti from a funeral, my chair toppling as I dodged. The struggle spilled across the desk, fists glancing, my elbow cracking his jaw, his nails raking my arm. Alarms blared, security triggered, but in the melee, his phone skittered free, screen lighting Harlan's damning thread. You see? I gasped, pinning his wrist, blood trickling warm. It's over. He bucked, rage distilled. Not without you. The shove sent me staggering back, plate glass shuddering under my weight. 40 stories down, the abyss yawning. Time fractured, his hand outstretched, not to save but to push, the edge crumbling under my heels. I teetered, wind howling, the alley's echo in my ears. This is for Dad's legacy. But this time, I twisted, grabbing his collar, yanking him with me toward the brink. We hung there, balanced on betrayal's fulcrum, his eyes wide with the shock of mirrors. Soft. Sirens wailed below, security bursting in. He recoiled, collapsing as I righted, the moment shattering into cuffs and chaos. Feds swarmed hours later, Harlan unraveling in raids, Ethan's empire a house of cards in flames. Interrogations followed, me bandaged in ER, statement measured, self-defense, attempted assault. His unraveling tapestry of greed, the frame-up confessed in tears, the will's forgery, attempt laid bare. The twist? Grandma's addendum held, but she'd slipped a codicil. Equal shares if redemption shown. Ethan, in county lockup, penned a letter, apology, fractured but real, seeds of amends. The fallout settled like snow on a battlefield, blanketing the wreckage in uneasy hush. Ethan pled out, wire fraud, attempted coercion, 3 years federal, a plea deal greased by his own evidence dumps, the Harlan web collapsing in a cascade of indictments that spared the firm but gutted its underbelly. I watched from the gallery, his orange jumpsuit a far cry from tailored suits, his gaze meeting mine once. Not hate, but hollow. A brother's shell, redemption's faint pulse in his slumped shoulders. Controversial mercy? I didn't visit, but I didn't gloat. The cycle broke, not with vengeance's blaze, but a smoldering close. The house stood, willed intact to me and Graham as co-heirs, Dad's rehab turning him handyman, fixing stairs for her knees, mending fences with weekly calls. Mom entered therapy, her denial thawing to tentative truths, our coffees laced with I'm sorry, that tasted like healing. Lila? She kept the ring, but upgraded the man. Chad evolved, or replaced. Either way, her texts buzzed with grad school ambitions, the vanity yielding to velocity. Grandma and we renovated, turning the colonial into a haven, not luxury, but lived in. Ramp for her chair, guest suite for Dad's visits, a library wall for Lila's books. Thanksgivings morphed, smaller circles, louder laughs, the floor forever off-limits. No unannounced arrivals. We planned, we prepared, the drama distilled to anecdotes over pie. But the rebirth scar lingered, a phantom itch in quiet moments. I'd wake gasping, Allie rain on my tongue, the knife's ghost a reminder. Second chances weren't gifts, but gauntlets. I'd run the firm solo at first, audits ironclad, then sold to ethical partners, my cut seeding a foundation, widows' homes, elder advocacy, payback wrapped in policy. One crisp November eve, for years post-chaos, I pulled into the drive, announced, pie in hand, Grandma on the porch, quilt draped, her smile the sun through clouds. Room for one more? A figure unfolded from the rocker beside her. Ethan, parole early for good behavior, gaunt but grounded, eyes clear of entitlement's fog. Truce, he asked, voice rough as gravel, hand extended, not clammy, but calloused from prison yard labor. I took it, grip firm. Fresh start. No hugs, no tears. Just the American grit of moving on, fractures sealed with time's imperfect mortar. Inside, the table groaned under turkey and truces, family reassembled, not whole, but welded. Toasts rang, to Graham's steel, Dad's sobriety, Lila's degree.
Mean?
Silent, to the death that birthed this dawn, the own Ewan, the betrayal's forge, the revenge that bent toward grace. As plates cleared, laughter bubbling free, I stepped out for air, the stars sharp over Philly's sprawl. The wind whispered Springsteen lyrics, a full-circle echo. I'd come home unannounced once, sparked the storm. This time, I'd built the shelter. And in that, the happy, or at least healed, ending, not perfection, but presence, the controversial choice to forgive what couldn't be forgotten, because living trumped lingering in graves. The end? No, just the next chapter, unwritten, but ours.